Good day, good folks. This is another experimental show from the Glass Academy, family-run business out of Dearborn, Michigan. Jacob right there twirling, spinning, showing you guys that sweet tool, how it works. You got Michelle working with me today as well. That's a pipe cutter for copper pipe, so I'm kind of just explaining without words how you ream it out, how we pre-cut these copper tubes and sliding it onto the blowpipe. This is going to be, we're restyling once again our Percola Reeds, which is our garden accent product, and mainly a class that we offer here at the Glass Academy. A lot of people make it for their own gardens in their house. We want to make this a little bit cleaner of a process and make it a little more efficient, a little easier on the guys and a little easier on the students to make them the way they want. So what we're doing is I popped a hole in the side of the copper, and we've tried 4 different cotter pins at this point, but this one is the one that I think will be successful. So it's all steel, can't be zinc plated, can't be anything, but it's a all steel cotter pin, one of the thin boys. And you put it through, I'm sliding it, pinching it all the way around, and now we have a piece of copper on the pipe. It's not gonna fall off, and it's looking good. Copper is one of the materials, it heats up quick, it'll stick to glass, but the glass doesn't get it hot enough that it morphs it and busts it, breaks it at all. So I had this one in the pipe one where you can see the discoloration, which we'll grind them after the fact and fix that back up. But it's hot enough now that the glass is going to stick to that copper piece. We want to encase, I'm going to make them like the class is with a little bit of color. So we go with clear to start. That's just a small gather to begin with. I probably could have gone smaller, to be honest. But we're going to load some color on there. I think here I went for like orange and pink. Maybe I went with blue and yellow was the first one. So I did a half and half, and I'm gonna go for a couple different coats, melt it in, make sure it's nice and smooth, and then we'll gather over it and we'll start to shape the reed up. There's a couple different things we were trying to design in this class, both getting that cotter pin out of there, making sure, it's gonna be almost 2,000 degrees when you're trying to remove it off of the pipe, so you gotta have a mechanism for getting it off. It's gotta be smooth. You're doing it in front of the public and with their reed that they just made, so you can't be messing around. There can't be any tomfoolery. So it needs to be a clean process. And this is, we've been redesigning this class for a long time. And all the classes are always constantly getting improved on. We're trying to pump up the mushroom and give you guys an option to have a standalone mushroom instead of one that would go in your plant, kind of like this. But there's so many facets to designing a class, from the glass blower's perspective, what they can handle with a student, what colors will work, what products can actually be made and not have any treachery with the color, with the style, with the temperature change while you're working with a student explaining things, but also what the student can handle. We have straight 16-year-olds come in, and we also have 85-year-olds come in. We've taught classes with disabled people. We want to make it accessible to everyone. And then you got people that want to do it all themselves, and they want to come in and just go to town, and if they break it, they don't care. So you got to have the options for that. The instructors have to be trained for that. The product has to be designed to handle all of that. So there's so many facets to it. Here I'm going with the twist, and that's in constant evolution. This is one we've had for a long, long time, and it's still in constant evolution. But if you guys haven't tried a class, if you're not local, we got a lot of people from around the world watching our shows here at this point, and especially during COVID. If you guys have a local glass shop, I urge you to check it out, because it's a beautiful process in itself, watching it being made and the way we curl things up and do them on our show. But to try it yourself is something completely different, and you get a totally new appreciation for the glass. But this is the experimental show here now, and if you guys are brand new to the show, this is something we do every Sunday at 3 o'clock. It kind of tails off of our Tuesday Gathering Point show, which is from 6 to 8. It's live glass blowing. We stream it. You can watch it after the fact. We've got shorter versions of it as well. But we do custom orders. We do seasonal things, match them to holidays. We do a challenge, a Glass Academy challenge every single show. And it's really a pretty darn good time. We're in the early 200 shows, which is a lot of shows since 2020, at least once a week. We used to do 3 times a week in the very beginning, but now we've kind of diversified a little bit. So we do the Tuesday show, then we have an annealer reveal, which every glass piece has to be cooled down overnight. So we let that cool down, and then Thursdays at 1:30, or is it 3 o'clock? I think it's 3 o'clock we do the annealer reveal. And that's when I'll pull the pieces out, show you guys what we made and how it worked out. Look at how this came off here. It's not that easy, honestly. We gotta kind of maybe fix a better way, but it wasn't that hard either. It was way better than everything else we were working with. So I pulled it out of there. I had to move fast because it was starting to cool down because I was working with that for so long. But once the cotter pin's out of there, all you gotta do is just set it down and slide it off of the pipe. So that was pretty happy. I was pretty happy about that one. That's a real big upgrade. The other beautiful thing about it too, I mean, we're spending more by purchasing the copper pipes and by purchasing the cotter pins, but there's also less waste of glass. We recycle all our glass one more time too, so we have very minimal waste that we throw into the landfill compared to, I mean, glass in general. We'd say that about 30% of everything you pull out the furnace is a means to an end. And then becomes recycle, and then that 30% of the recycle is what we have no choice but to toss in the landfill or repurpose. And I've had quite a few people come and get buckets of glass for us for different projects and whatnot. We're going to do a little mosaic in our hallway coming up here soon with some leftover glass. But yeah, there's no waste on this, which is super cool. So there's no time for us to set the pipe down, and we don't have to wait for the glass to shuck itself off of the pipe because there's no glass on the end of the pipe. You pretty much just let it cool down and then put a new copper tube on and go from there. So it's 100% usage of material, which is super satisfying. We don't like throwing anything in the landfill. And then I guess the counter to that is it's the cotter pin, and I don't know what's better or worse, but you guys be the judge. Let us know in the comments. I think it's pretty efficient at this point. So we're going for round 2. I wanted to make 2 examples to test it again. The real tester on this, I knew the cotter pin worked, but from time to time, we know the copper works with the heat, but if I spend a lot of time working on this reed, and I tried to make one of them, I think it was the first one, a little bit longer, and I really heated it up extra because when you're teaching a class or you're talking to the student, a lot of times you'll overheat the piece just to have a little extra time to work on it. And I wanted to see if a couple of the other cotter pin styles, around the back special. A couple of the other cotter pin styles they'd bend to get in place and they'd be holding it, but as soon as you heated them up, they would lose their strength in holding onto the copper, and then that would cause them to just slide off of the pipe. So I was blasting the first one. This one I think I did a little more efficiently. A little smaller bit of glass, and we're also toying with the lengths of the copper tubes as well. See if that makes any difference. But that worked out good. A little fold, and it gave it a little bit of texture, which is cool. We're adding an option to go with hit an optic mold and have straight rib optics, twisted optics on the Percola Reed, or go smooth, and this is kind of in between those two. Here I went for a full curl around. Boom. Pretty sweet. The other thing is you don't have to worry about a neckline. And every single piece you make in glass blowing, you have to have a crease line where you break it off of the pipe. And that is not always easy to get a smooth crease line on there, but it also gives you this like tighter access point where it's flopping around and is a little more difficult to control. You got to keep tightening it up, and almost every time you sit at the bench, you're thinking about the neckline. So for students and first timers and more experienced students to be able to focus mostly on what's going on the piece and not worry about that as much, it's kind of huge and pretty sweet. Here this was the second attempt, I went with the wire cutters and tried to cut off those 2 little pieces and see if it was any better. But it actually just kind of gave a little edge on the other side of the copper that didn't want to pull through. So it didn't really work as nice. It was a little more difficult to do, and by the time I got that out of there, the whole reed had slumped to one side, so it was a little bit not as nice. But that's what the experimental show's for, and that's what designing a class is all about. There, I wiggled them in, slid it in a little bit. timing's got to be perfect to put it away so you're not scratching the glass or it's not slumping. But there you go. And here's the reveal of the two pieces. So the first one on the right was it was blue and yellow, but because it overlapped with the yellow, it had a little bit of a reaction. They don't mix, but it had a reaction where it kind of turned greener. But take a look at the copper. Notice the color on the inside of the glass. I used a belt sander to grind down the copper and get a little bit of that coppery look back. It's not going to ever be perfectly smooth because we were working with it in the furnace, but it does look a lot nicer. And then here's number two. This one is not my favorite color pattern. That's a really expensive gold ruby pink and a bright yellow, and I think you be the judge of that. Let us know in the comments what you think. Look at how the copper got really bright in there. I'm still figuring out what temperatures and how that works to decide what it looks like inside the glass. But that's that. Hope you guys like that show. As I mentioned, you guys should be checking out the Tuesday Gathering Point show from 6 to 8. Follow us to spread the word. Subscribe to the channel. We have a VIP membership with all kinds of exclusive perks. And drop a comment in there and ask us some questions, guys. We love interacting with you. We appreciate your guys' support. And from the Glass Academy to you guys, thank you very much for watching. Have a beautiful week.